This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
It's around Matariki time, which has Kate and I reflect on what we said at the beginning of this year as far as New Year's resolutions. And so now seems a good time to revisit that and think about whether we've achieved our goals, not achieved our goals, changed our goals, and how we're feeling and coping with all of the above. Thanks for joining us for Being Real Parents with me, Anna, and my colleague and buddy,
Kate. We work in the parenting space.
And it's here where we'll talk about our worlds as parents, the good, the not so good, and the hilarious, and mix this with what we know about behaviour and psychology. Hey, Kate.
Hey, Anna.
So today we thought we'd start rounding off on where Melissa and I left our New Year's resolutions. Yep. It does feel like I left my New Year's resolutions, but it does feel like Matariki has brought that back to me in terms of kind of like looking forward, reflecting, and those sorts of things. So do you want me to do a round off on what I remember of that session that podcast that we did together back in January time, and then we can talk about how that's going and bring you into that and what you did in terms of your resolution and goals. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. I mean, we're July, right? So
yeah, we're July. so yeah. Yes, what I do like about the setting goals things is that thing about activating hope. That's what I like about it.
Yep.
Yeah. And Melissa and I talked about setting professional, personal, family, financial and health goals.
Just a little bit.
Just and kind of setting some stuff around that. What I remember about that was talking about, rather than goals, setting intentions.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, which we both liked as well. And talking about, a beautiful community colleague who I absolutely adore and does incredible work, Rico Gomez, and he, at that time, was talking about setting his goals by looking what he could achieve in 10 years, but then push into 1 year. And then also he was considering whether or not he would write a book about it. So it needed to fit those two criteria, that he could fit 10 years worth of goals, or I guess work or intention or whatever, into 1 year, and then also whether or not it was worthy of writing a book about, which just blows my mind.
Yeah, I do remember this korero now because the anxiety is kind of creeping back in there
good.
for me.
You look a bit anxious. That's my intention.
Yeah, no, that anxiety is reminding me of this. Yep, I'm there.
Yeah, and it was such a kind of like wild card, because I remember that, we'd be talking about small steps, little and often, and then next minute I bring that up.
Oh, just my 10-year plan, really. Just casually.
And we talked about why we were rejecting that, and one of the reasons that I was rejecting that, because I mean, you were clearly rejecting that, and I, just through your facial expression, and my reasoning was, it just felt like it was going to put too much pressure on me in my already quite full life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can relax now.
Okay, I thought you were gonna sit down
That's
and
us.
start planning a 10-year plan.
In a year.
Give me 5.
I am in complete admiration if that's manageable, doable. Wicked.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
If that's your jam.
Yeah. I'm kind of jealous. I am a bit jealous, because actually if I if I want, there's a part of me that really wants to, but there's also a part of me, or there's a part of my family, I think, that would say, Anna, no.
Don't do it.
And they're generally the sensible part of me.
Yeah, everyone needs that little person on their shoulder, though, eh?
Yeah. And I think that was basically where we got to. I remember with Melissa, we didn't really have any, at that stage, we didn't have the goals in mind. We didn't talk them.
Yeah.
And then I went away and I set some, and I was really clear about I didn't want to set, which is against all science, by the way, I didn't want to set like concrete goals. Because I wanted to set them in terms of how achieving something in that realm, so in my professional realm, would make me feel.
Yeah, so like not making them too specific. What is it? Smart goals?
Specific, measurable, achievable, attainable, realistic, and time bound somehow.
Yeah. Cool. So none of those things.
Well, just in 2023, I will feel.
I like that. I'm all about it.
And then this podcast and revisiting these and Matariki made me reflect on who I was being at the beginning of this year, and I came to this and thought, oh no, I haven't, none of that, none meets the brief.
Awesome. I really look forward to this chat.
Thanks.
You're listening to Being Real Parents with Kate and Anna on Plains FM 96.9. Okay, Anna, I'm really looking forward to this this korero around where your goals, intentions, whatever we want to call them.
Feelings, just my feelings.
Feelings are at. How's that going for you?
Yeah. Well, because my feelings aren't yet apparent for me, so in terms of family I wanted to feel more connected.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a cool goal.
Yeah, I do feel that. I feel connected. Yeah, cool. Financially, I wanted to feel less stress. I just wonder whether or not that's even possible. Is that possible?
Is that even a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So that's going really well.
Yeah, that's good, eh? Yeah. Okay, so we need to rethink that.
Is that realistic? Specific.
Feeling no stress financially. Surely.
It's not a thing.
Maybe not in today's climate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something I care a lot about, but when I come to it, I get stressed about it.
I think that's probably the norm, though, right?
The planning stuff and the... Oh, no. Okay, cool. And then health. Happy with where I'm at.
These are my kind of goals. And how's that going?
I'm not happy with where I'm at with my health goals. I just fell out of my habits and routines because I had to do a bit of travel, and then because the classes that I like were booked out because I got to them late, and then there was like sickness.
Winter, eh?
Yeah, 3 weeks of just eternal sickness.
So hard to get back on the exercise buzz when you've been sick.
This week I'm happy with where I am.
Cool.
So that's helpful, wasn't it? A week of...
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yes. Okay, is this answering your question of how ridiculous these goals were and how they're not helping me?
Do you know what?
They're not activating hope, is that?
They're not activating hope. Do you know what I love, though? It's reminding me of myself and kind of why I don't really set goals anymore.
Do you know, we're the perfect people to do a podcast on goal setting, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Somebody...
I don't know, in the past, I've just felt disappointed and annoyed at myself. You know, like they don't bring hope like you're talking about.
No.
But what I actually do like to do instead is like reflect on what I have done. So like this is a perfect time to think about the last 6-7 months and think, okay, so what have you actually achieved this year, even if you didn't set them as goals?
Thank God you're here, Kate, because I was starting to kind of, you know, enter the vortex of uselessness, hopelessness. Yeah, good. Cool, thank you.
And so, like, sometimes I find that just as beneficial is to actually reflect and maybe not so much set... Because really it just sets pressure on yourself, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, cool to have some, especially I find exercise is definitely a goal I have too.
Yeah.
Like around, okay, I'm going to do this many times a week, but not a year long because that's just too massive for me.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I've messed up 2 weeks. I'm done.
Yeah, which is all I remember is the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. But actually, the last week you've been sweet. So
Yeah.
if we actually broke it into like weeks instead of 10-year plan,
I know.
I don't know. For me, that feels more helpful.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I had to make some kind of like a really big decision recently, and somebody told me about just sit down, quiet spot with a coffee, and think about all of the options that you have available to you and inside of the decision that you have to make. Think about how it's going to impact you in 10 minutes, in 10 months, and in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool too.
Nice.
Because I realised that it didn't matter what decision I made right now, it would make me feel quite differently, like sometimes relieved in the next 10 minutes and sometimes really kind of like uneasy in the next 10 minutes. 10 months, it would all start to look quite the same, and in 10 years it wouldn't matter.
Isn't that crazy that something that feels really significant in the moment in 10 years is going to mean nothing?
Yeah, huge. I think the other thing that's changed my perspective on goal setting, if you like, is having read Oliver Burkeman's 4,000 Weeks book, which is all about our lifetime is basically the course of 4,000 weeks on average.
Right.
Give or take, which is, you know, you come to that thinking that's kind of terrifying. But
slightly.
And he was a person that was, you know, not dissimilar to me and you know, that were really busy, really interested in time management and sticking to a schedule and getting things done and ticking things off the to-dos. But came through, you know, masses of research and a beautifully written book, like become one of my favourites, became, you know, really aware of being mindful and being present and taking notice of the here and now.
Yeah.
And I thought that really made me think about why am I kind of like pushing myself so hard?
Yeah.
So I totally recommend that book as well,
Yeah,
although
awesome.
it's clearly taking me off course with goals.
It's really helpful for your goal setting, clearly.
Yeah.
But sounds amazing.
Yeah. It was amazing, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think... Oh, maybe someone would be really mad at me for saying this, but I don't think goal setting's like, you know, everything.
Who would be really mad at you for saying that?
I don't know. I just find even part of our work, you know, when we meet with people, it's around like, okay, so what are your goals? What are you wanting to get from this? You know, we're all very centred around that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's kind of everywhere we go.
But I guess the thing is that the reason that we work, you know, I'm justifying here, but the reason that we work with parents in that way, what do you want to get out of this, you know, what this time with me, is because I don't want them walking out the door
Yeah.
having not achieved anything that they came to us for. So that's why I come to it in that way. And it's, it's an hour.
Yeah, for sure. We can break it down.
Yeah, that's right. Whereas, when we're talking about big-time life goals, I mean, if you think about big-time life goals, I want to somehow, my kind of big-time life goals are to have made some kind of positive difference in this space and world for people.
Yeah.
To feel really connected to my family and friends and have those as a regular part of my life. Yeah. Oh, look, I'm getting serious now, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's not to make $1 million.
Yeah. Although being financially stress-free would be lovely.
Yeah. But I guarantee that if I made $1 million, I'd still be looking at my goal going, have I got, limited stress around my financials?
Never.
The answer would be no.
Never. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so some massive life goals there. That's cool. What do you reckon we can be doing if we are setting goals and say we are reflecting on them now? Like you say, it's, that time of Matariki. It's a great time to reflect on that. What do you think we should be doing when we're reflecting on them, if we are going to do that?
Well, I think that you're doing a really good job of modelling for me that thing about, reflecting on what we have achieved as opposed to what we haven't.
Yeah.
And then also, so that, that kind of, being gentle with ourselves.
Yeah, having self-compassion and being kind around that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And having some perspective around it too. Like, I think that that's the good thing about having this kōrero, is that it gives you some perspective around it. So you're not like, setting goals in isolation, which impacts so many other people.
Yeah.
Talking it over with you gives, makes me think, oh, that was too big, or that was going to, impact too many people.
Yeah.
Or so what? So what if there's a bit of stress around financials?
Yeah.
Manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually talking it out loud and having someone to kind of check in with around that maybe as well.
Yeah.
Is this a ridiculous goal?
Goal.
Yeah, and I like how you talk about it's almost like celebrating the small successes within that too, hey? Like, and actually celebrate them. Like, you've achieved more than you probably can see.
Yes. And also, I think the thing is, what happens for me is that at the beginning of this year, I set these intentions, which just happened to be feelings, which were kind of big. But what I didn't think about was the journey. And I think that's what the Oliver Burkeman stuff is good for, that book, 4,000 Weeks, is that kind of like, we set this goal expecting that that's going to happen on that date, and we'll reflect back and go, yes, I feel that way. I have managed that goal. But, and then in all of the meantime, it's this uphill shit fight in order to get there. And it's kind of like, hang on a minute, the important thing is actually the journey.
Yeah. Well, that's quite deep, isn't it?
And enjoying the journey.
Yeah. And the journey also has obstacles that we, at the start of the year, if, say, you're setting them at the start of the year, you're not even thinking about. Like sickness, that happens.
Yeah.
We all get sick.
Yeah.
But it's not something that you're like, oh, okay, well, when I'm setting these goals, when that happens, I'm going to, like, you almost have to have a plan for everything.
Gosh. Plan B is, if it takes my June out, which it did, basically.
June's gone. Now I only got 11 months.
Yeah, I was in January when we were all happy and warm. Yeah. And spending time outside.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a different person then.
Yeah. Your time will come again.
Yeah. Well, in January, I'll be that person again, all optimistic. And it's not that I'm not optimistic now. It's just kind of like this realisation that, I do this to myself. I make myself a wee bit miserable by setting these lofty goals and then reflecting on all the stuff that I haven't achieved, as opposed to that, what we've, just expressed.
Yeah.
Being in the moment, being present, enjoying the people around me.
There's got to be some balance, hey? Because I feel like, before we even started this podcast, I was like, well, I don't really set goals, Anna, because that's how I end up feeling, so I just don't do it. But there's got to be a balance, surely.
I think the thing is we talked about just, an hour long, in this hour, what are we going to accomplish or achieve together?
We've broken down from 10-year plan to an hour. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. But not the 10 years goals inside of that hour.
Yeah. Okay, so for our top tips on this korero around reviewing goals / not having goals / being mindful of where we've come from. Number one is to be reflective of the journey towards the goal instead of being completely focused on the goal itself. So thinking about being being present in the moment as we go through that journey instead of being always that focused on that goal. And, sometimes goals take longer than we envision, so being mindful of that too. Number two, celebrating the success of what we have achieved rather than, focused on what we haven't done or how we haven't made it to our goal. So, reflecting, reviewing what we have done within the year, even if that's not completely linked to the goal itself, that's all good. And number three, reviewing our goals to approach, if we are reviewing our goals, if we actually do that, to do this with kindness and self-compassion, and to also use our other supports like Anna has today to actually review whether our goal is achievable. So to have those people around us to give us a bit of a reality check or also support us to meet those goals.
Thanks for joining us today, and we're worried a little that we've put you off working with us at all, given that we started this podcast thinking that we would talk about our goals, and now we've talked ourselves around to a different way of looking at our goals and perceiving them and taking that journey. You are really welcome to have a look of any of our past podcasts, including the one where I set my intentions and goals for the year, and you'll find those on Plains FM. Just search for Being Real Parents, or come to our website to see what we do and who we are, www.realparents.org.nz, or join us in social. And please, if there's anything in your parenting world that you want to talk to us about that you finding challenging, we're here for you and we'd love to work with you. Don't hesitate to get in touch. You'll find all of our details on the website.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us today.
We hope you've learned that while parenting is challenging sometimes, that's totally normal. It's been fun having you with us. Keep being amazing.
Bye!